Rain hammered against the glass doors of Morrison Tech's 40-story headquarters. Through the blur, a woman's trembling hand pressed against the cold surface. Her breath fogged the glass as security guards inside shook their heads, pointing to signs about appointments and proper channels. She didn't move. Water dripped from her worn coat onto marble she'd never be allowed to walk on. In her other hand, a manila envelope, edges soft from too much handling, contents more precious than the fortune locked away in the building above her. The guards exchanged glances. One reached for his radio. Amara Okafor had been up since 4 a.m, like every day for the past 3 years. 2 jobs kept the lights on in their 1-bedroom apartment, cleaning office buildings before dawn, stocking shelves after her son fell asleep. Her hands, rough and permanently stained from industrial cleaning chemicals, moved with practiced efficiency as she prepared breakfast from whatever stretched their food stamps furthest. 8-year-old Kemi sat at their fold-out table, homework spread around a bowl of generic cereal. His uniform, bought second-hand, hemmed by Amara's careful stitches, was clean but faded. He never complained, never asked why other kids had newer clothes, or why Mum always said maybe next month to requests for field trips or birthday parties. "My love, eat quickly. Mrs. Chen will pick you up soon," Amara whispered, smoothing his dark hair. In his eyes, so much like hers, she saw an intelligence that deserved Harvard, not hand-me-downs. That knowledge lived in her chest like a stone, heavy and constant. She kissed his forehead, tasting her own failure. At 19, Amara Okafor had been brilliant. Not just smart, brilliant. Full scholarship to MIT, summer internships at tech startups, professors who whispered about her revolutionary approach to quantum computing algorithms. She'd published papers that had Silicon Valley investors calling her dorm room. Kwame Morrison had been her study partner, her intellectual equal, her first love. They'd spent nights in the computer lab, writing code that could change the world, planning their future, their company, their breakthrough, their life together. The pregnancy test changed everything. "We're not ready," Kwame had said, his face pale in their shared apartment. "My family, my career. Amara, you know I love you, but..." She'd kept the baby, he'd kept their code. Now, 10 years later, Morrison Tech was worth $2 billion. The algorithms they'd written together, her revolutionary breakthrough in quantum processing, powered every product bearing his name. Forbes called him the Visionary. TED Talks made him famous. She called him Kemi's father. It started with a commercial during Kemi's Saturday morning cartoons. Morrison Tech's latest product launch, and there was Kwame, older, greying at the temples, but unmistakable, explaining his innovation to millions of viewers. "The breakthrough came to me during my MIT days," he said, that familiar smile lighting up his face. "Sometimes inspiration strikes when you're young and fearless enough to dream big." Amara's coffee cup trembled in her hands. Those words, she remembered typing them into their shared research document. Her words, her breakthrough. That night, she pulled out the box she'd hidden in their closet for 10 years. Research papers, code printouts, emails, all time-stamped, all proving her contribution to what was now making Kwame Morrison unimaginably wealthy. While she counted quarters for the laundromat, Kemi found her crying over the papers at 2 a.m. "Mum, are you okay?" She wiped her eyes, forcing a smile. "Just tired, my love." Go back to sleep. But she wasn't tired. She was drowning. Sleep became impossible. Amara would lie awake calculating how many medical bills could be paid with just 1% of Morrison Tech's profits. How many nights could she stop choosing between electricity and groceries? How many times had she told Kemi, "We can't afford it," while Kwame Morrison bought his 3rd house? At her cleaning job, She moved like a ghost through empty office buildings. Her reflection in their polished windows showed a woman disappearing, thinner, quieter, fading into the background of a world that had forgotten her. Kemi's teacher called about his declining grades. He seems distracted lately, worried about something at home. Amara lied smoothly. Just a busy time for us. But busy was the wrong word. Suffocated was better. She was suffocating under the weight of knowing that somewhere across town a man slept peacefully in mansions, built on her dreams, while her brilliant son did homework by lamplight because the overhead bulb had burned out 3 months ago. The manila envelope lived on her kitchen table now, between unpaid bills and Kemi's artwork. Evidence, proof, truth that nobody would ever believe the Forbes interview was the final straw. The genius behind the algorithm, the headline read, with Kwame Morrison's face filling the cover. Inside, he detailed his creative process, the eureka moment, the years of development, stealing not just her code, but her story. Amara's hands shook as she read his words. I remember the exact night it came to me. I was alone in the lab, surrounded by failed attempts, when suddenly the solution appeared. It was like the universe was speaking through me. She'd been there that night. It was her solution. She'd whispered it to him at 3 a.m., exhausted but excited, and he'd kissed her and called her a genius. Now he was the genius, and she was nobody. Kemi came home from school to find her packing the manila envelope with methodical precision. Every email, every time-stamped document, every piece of proof that Amara Okafor had created the technology that made Morrison Tech possible. Where are you going, Mum? Amara looked at her son, her brilliant, beautiful boy, who deserved everything Kwame Morrison's stolen success could provide, and felt something crack open in her chest. I'm going to tell the truth, my love. What truth? She knelt beside him, hands on his small shoulders. That sometimes good people do bad things, and sometimes the world forgets who really deserves credit. But the truth doesn't forget. The rain had stopped by the time Amara reached Morrison Tech's headquarters, but she was soaked anyway by 10 years of tears she'd finally let fall. The security guards watched her approach with familiar irritation, but something in her face made them step back instead of forward. She placed her palm against the glass door and spoke clearly. Tell Mr. Morrison that Amara Okafor is here. Tell him I have something that belongs to both of us. The guard spoke into his radio, listened, then looked surprised. He says to send you up. In the elevator, Amara closed her eyes and felt something dying inside her. Not hope, but the naive belief that some injustices would be ignored forever. She was no longer the woman who cleaned these buildings in silence. She was the woman who had created them. The doors opened to reveal a reception area worth more than she'd ever earned in her lifetime. Kwame Morrison's office occupied an entire corner of the 40th floor, windows looking out over a city that had forgotten Amara Okafor existed. He stood with his back to her, hands clasped behind him. Older, successful, but somehow smaller than she remembered. You look good, Amara. He turned and she saw her own exhaustion reflected in his eyes. I heard about your circumstances. I'm sorry. Are you? I never wanted this for you. You chose this for me. Amara set the manila envelope on his glass desk. 10 years ago, you chose this. Kwame stared at the envelope but didn't touch it. What do you want? I want my son to know his father didn't abandon him because he was unwanted. I want him to know his father abandoned him because keeping a secret was more profitable than keeping a family. Amara, I want Kemi to attend the school he deserves. I want him to have the opportunities your success could provide. I want what was always his, not as charity, but as birthright. Kwame opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside were documents he hadn't seen in a decade, covered in Amara's handwriting, time-stamped with dates that proved everything he'd built was founded on her brilliance. I could have gone to the press, Amara continued. I could have destroyed you. Instead, I'm offering you a choice. Be the father Kemi deserves, or explain to the world how you became a billionaire by stealing from the mother of your child. I loved you, Kwame whispered, and for a moment Amara saw the boy she'd once known, brilliant, scared, capable of greatness and terrible choices in equal measure. I know, she replied. That's why this hurts so much. We could figure this out together. I could take care of you, both of you. We could be a family. Amara's laugh held no bitterness, only clarity. Kwame, you made your choice when you walked away from your pregnant girlfriend to protect your reputation. You made it again every year. You let your son grow up in poverty while you built an empire on his mother's dreams. You don't get to unmake those choices now. Then what do you want from me? I want you to be better than the man who stole my code. I want you to be worthy of the brilliant little boy who carries your DNA and my heart. She stood, smoothing her worn coat. I want you to prove that the Kwame Morrison I once loved is still somewhere inside the billionaire you became. Kwame stared at the documents scattered across his desk. And if I refuse? Then tomorrow morning, every major tech publication will receive copies of everything in that envelope, along with DNA test results proving Kemi is your son. The world will know that Morrison Tech was built on stolen innovation and abandoned responsibility. You'd destroy me. No, Amara said softly. I'd let you destroy yourself. 3 months later, Kemi Okafor Morrison started at Riverside Preparatory Academy. His uniform was new, his backpack filled with supplies Amara had never been able to afford. More importantly, his college fund grew each month, with contributions from a father finally learning to be worthy of the title. Amara still cleaned buildings, but now by choice rather than desperation. She'd enrolled in night classes, pursuing the computer science degree she had abandoned a decade ago. Her professor, a young woman not much older than Amara had been when she'd first written the code that changed everything, often asked her opinion on complex algorithms. You think like someone who's done this professionally, the professor said after class one evening. Amara smiled. Once upon a time, I did. That night, she helped Kemi with his advanced mathematics homework, watching him work through problems that reminded her of puzzles she'd solved in MIT labs so long ago. His mind moved with the same quick brilliance that had once made her professors whisper about changing the world. Mum, Kemi said, looking up from his calculations. My dad, he's a good man, isn't he? Amara considered the question, really considered it. Kwame visited every other weekend now, awkward but trying. He'd never love her again, and she'd never trust him completely. But he was learning to be the father Kemi deserved, and that was enough. He's learning to be good, she said finally. Sometimes that's harder than being born good, but it's more meaningful when someone chooses to become better. Kemi smiled and returned to his homework. Outside their new apartment, still modest but warm and bright, the city sparkled with possibilities that had once seemed impossible. Amara Okafor had knocked on a CEO's door demanding justice. What she'd found was something better. The truth that some victories aren't about destroying those who wronged you, but about building something beautiful from the pieces they tried to break. In her purse, she carried a letter of acceptance to MIT's graduate program. At 32, she was going back to finish what she'd started. This time, No one could steal her dreams. The end.